Hello and welcome to Two Girls, One Pod. I'm Crystal,
I'm Melissa.
and today we are going to talk about things we'd like to tell our 16-year-old selves.
Yeah, I'm excited about this one. So, this is something that we ask a lot of people that we interview. And we
Yeah,
will probably continue to ask it to everybody because I just think it's such a fascinating question. But
for sure.
we've tossed it around between the two of us for a while now. And I never know what to say. And I think it's funny because we always put other people on the spot. But then
Yeah,
when I'm actually thinking about it for myself, I'm like, I don't know what I would say to my 16-year-old self. Like it's a hard question to answer when you think about it. Cause the first time we were thinking about it, I think I made a list.
yeah,
And I mean, this is going back weeks and weeks ago. I don't even know where the list is now, but I remember making a list and like looking back on it and it was like specific advice, but also not so specific advice. And I think I have a completely different answer now than what I had before. And it's very simple, but I'm
but that's
curious.
okay.
I'm curious to hear yours. So the question that we're starting off, because you also have a list of questions from last week. Do you still have those?
Yeah, and there's a couple in my head somewhere.
Okay. All right, perfect. So we do have other things that we could probably get into, but the main question here that we figure we'll fire out right away is what would you say if you met your 16-year-old self today? So as our 30-ish year old selves, if we were to meet our 16-year-old selves today, as we are now, what would you say to them? So what would you say to 16-year-old Crystal?
The first thing that I would tell 16-year-old Crystal is to stop being such a see you next Tuesday to your mother. I'm just
Okay, so
saying.
for all of our listeners, see you next Tuesday spells out the word cunt if you use the first letter in each word. So
Even
stop being
though
a cunt to your mother.
C and you and they don't start with that. But let's
No,
just
it's
everybody should
C.
know this.
Yeah,
If you don't
yeah.
know this, you know it now.
It's the letter C, the letter U, and then the words next Tuesday. So stop being a cunt to your mother. So why were you a cunt to your mom?
Oh fuck, man, I just was like such a fucking terrible person. I mean, I don't know. I guess like part of it was when I think back on it, I'm just like, I was 16. I
You
was
knew
I thought
everything.
I thought I knew everything because what 16-year-old doesn't?
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I probably have some impulsivity issues.
No, not you, Crystal.
you know um yeah and I guess like at that time in my life it was just rebellious teenage kind of thing, and then I had one parent who lived in one place, one parent who lived in another, so there was like a little bit
That's
of the
hard.
playing them off of each other kind of a situation.
Okay.
Yeah, but I gotta say, man, like if my kids are that bad, I'm so fucked. I'm
Well, your
so
oldest is
fucked.
already not that bad.
Yeah,
Like, you
but
know what I mean?
he might
Like,
be the exception to the rule at
yeah,
this
he's the good
point.
one. He's the one that's like opposite of you as you were a kid, like
Pretty much,
attitude
yeah.
wise.
He's very much like, I find him very much like my brother. My brother was always very like calm, cool, collected, just pretty chill all of the time.
Right.
And yeah, the
And you were a
um
little psycho.
yeah. I mean,
I
that's
didn't really
putting it
have a
mildly.
rebellious phase, right? I was very like thinking back, if Scarlett is like me, which I really don't think she's gonna be because she's feisty. She's like me now.
Right.
But like if she is like me as a teenager, I'm not worried because I was into everything,
Hmm.
like sports wise and friends wise, and like I would go out and I was around everything that was considered like inappropriate. But I was like for a long time, I mean, my 17-year-old self is a little bit different than my 16-year-old self, but as a 16-year-old, like I was a lot of parties I was going to like cleaning up. You know what I mean? Like I'd clean up the beer
Wow.
bottles. Now, I say a lot, not all of them, because my first time drinking, I was 15, I guess officially being drunk. I was 15 at like a cheerleading party. That no, I remember it was we all got together to make pom-poms. So here in Newfoundland, folks, I don't know if it's changed since. I mean, we're going back 15 years, but
I don't know.
we didn't have pom-poms. So like for our Christmas parades and stuff, we would make pom-poms out of garbage bags.
Oh.
Like they were it was fun, and I didn't know that, but it was my like I was on the cheerleading team in grade 10, and we got together, and our cheerleading coach, she was like a teenager herself. She was like, I don't fucking like 18 or 19 maybe. So she had like coolers there. So I had a couple of coolers, and we were making pom-poms. So I mean, that was probably the first time I got a buzz. But I remember I came home. My dad picked me up, and I remember going home. My mom and dad had like people over, and they were all playing cards. And I
Mhm.
remember coming in and being like myself, because I was a pretty my personality has not really changed a whole ton, right?
Yeah.
Like I was pretty outgoing and loud anyway. And I remember
Mhm.
coming home and like joking around with the grown-ups, quote unquote, the grown-ups, and then going to bed. Like, but I went upstairs, and I said to the whole crowd, I was like, I gotta go. I'm too drunk for this. Like, and I made it a joke, but really I was like super spun out, because I can remember going upstairs and just sitting in my room and looking at the TV and like, oh my God, I'm so dizzy right now. Just like, woo. So, I
Yeah.
did drink a bit. That was like my first time, but I wasn't like out to be rebellious, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I was not good. I was if listen,
Were you an anarchist?
um I don't know what I was. Like
Fuck
I was
you,
just I was
authority.
pretty much, yeah. Like
Yeah.
I was like that. I was the person who would say stuff to the teachers. I was the person who like I was not that great. And it's funny because, my dad had this conversation with me the other day, and he said, "Oh, you weren't a bad kid." And I'm like, "Yeah, but you don't even know half of it." And he's like, "Well,
Yeah,
I know
that's
some of
true.
it."
Yeah,
But and to be fair, he probably does know some of the worst stuff, because
right.
I got found
That's
out
stuff you
later
got
that year,
caught with. Yeah.
right? It did not go well.
So you would tell yourself, and you were just like, what, mad at your mom because she wouldn't let you get away with everything?
Yeah, I guess mom was the stricter one. You know what I mean? Dad was always the one who kind of let me away with a little bit more, but dad and I are a lot more similar, so probably that's the reason why, right?
He
So,
understood where you were coming from.
yeah, I mean, like I would go out to his place at that age, and I almost feel like I'm like, is he gonna get in trouble for something that happened like 20 years
There's got
ago?
to be a statute of limitations on it by
There's
now.
gotta be,
Like,
right? But I mean, at this point, it's been 22 years, like.
yeah, like I'm
But I
fine.
mean, at that age, like I would go out to his place, and he'd just be like, "Guys, you need $10 for you and Kelly go a half case or halves on a half case."
Amazing. So he knew,
Oh
like,
yeah,
yeah, and he wasn't
right?
afraid of you having three there. He's like, she's fine.
No, exactly. And it was more or less just like, at least if I know, is just don't hide it.
So
You know what I mean?
he's a cool dad. He's, if you're gonna drink, I'd rather you do it in the house.
Well, yes and no, right? It was just like it
Yeah.
was kind of like, yes, you should go out in a field and do it, but but I know that
I
you're
don't
doing it.
want to be the one who knows that you're in my house doing it. Like, I'm not going to allow it to happen, but I would prefer if you weren't sneaking around behind my back, so that if you do get into trouble, you can come to me.
Yeah, that
So
was more
like
it,
it's
right?
it's like, respect me enough to hide it, but like you don't need to go out of your way to hide it. Like, we both have an unspoken rule that I know
Yeah.
what you're up to, and as long as you're not throwing my face in it and you're being responsible, I'm not going to ground you.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
That's where it was, you know what I mean?
That's kind of how I want to be.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think that's
Although,
the parent that I want to be, because my parents were very strict, very,
yeah.
very strict. Like the first time I got caught drinking, I was 17.
Mhm.
We were almost, it was New Year's Eve actually. So I was 17, New Year's Eve. I mean, a 17-year-old New Year's Eve at a party. I already made arrangements to sleep over to my friend's house. Like,
Right.
anyway, and mom always called me, because like every New Year's Eve, like, unless I had to babysit my little brother, I was
Mhm.
going out with my friends. So she would call me at midnight, like, and Happy New Year, and whoever they had at the house would wish me Happy New Year and so on, and go around the phone. So
Yeah.
mom calls me this year, and she's like, Happy New Year, Melissa. And I made the mistake of going into a quiet room to answer the phone, when
Right.
I
Yeah.
should have. They knew I was at a party. I should have just answered the party with everybody, and, oh, sorry, can't hear you, love you, Happy New Year, goodbye. But
Right.
instead, I answered the phone in like a quiet room, and I was like, hello, Happy New Year. And like I could barely talk. I was slurring my speech. I was absolutely like white girl wasted. Like I was messy. I mean, she could tell the second I said hello. And she was
Right.
like, "Have you been drinking?" And I remember being like, "Nope." She was like, "Melissa." So my grandfather, who passed away last year, actually,
Mhm.
um, my grandfather wasn't drinking. Like he didn't drink at this stage. He drank a lot when we were younger, so he didn't drink at this stage.
Right.
So I remember my mom was like, "Your grandfather is here and he is not drinking. And so help me God, if I have to get him to drive me in there, I will grab you by the corner of your ear." This is her threat on the phone. "And I will drag you out of that house. I don't care who sees me." And she said, "And I will take you home." And I was like, "Okay." She's like, "Don't lie to me." And I'm like, "Okay." I had two coolers and I couldn't talk. And she said, "We will discuss this in the morning," and hung up. And I was never so terrified to go
Mhm.
home in my life. Like I remember, so I slept at my friend's house and my friend's mom like knew what we were up to.
Oh yeah.
And she was like, I remember she was driving me home the next day because I think we told her like, Melissa caught whatever. And I remember she was driving me home the next day and she just looked at me and she said, "What I wouldn't give to be a fly on your wall right
Yep.
now." She said, "I would love it." And I'm like, Thanks." I'm kind of feel like shit right now. And I remember, I don't remember what happened after that. I think I got in with attitude and I came in, I was like,
Mm.
"What?" Because I'm like 17. I'm like, I was mad that she was mad. Because I'm like, you should
Right.
just expect it at this age. Like, so anybody who's listening who's not from Canada, because we probably sound awful, but um the drinking age here, the legal drinking age is 19.
In
So,
Newfoundland.
in Newfoundland. So like 17, 18 years old, you're
You're ought to
starting
get
to
it.
experiment, you're having a drink. So anyway, yeah, it's at like all my, my friends' parents knew that they were all having a drink. Anyway, it got to the point where like when graduation came around, like everybody drinks at grad, like people's parents were buying them like a half
Yeah.
case or whatever, just have a few coolers. We would go to a wine and cheese where the parents would supply the wine. Like that was
Mhm.
just what we did. I think nowadays they have like sober safe grads, but we would go to this wine and cheese. And I remember mom, I was so afraid of my mother finding out. And this is probably the only day she would have been okay with it. But she warned me even before I left. She was like, "I swear to God, if I call you and you've been drinking," and it was the same thing, "I'll come in and I'll get you and you won't see the summer. Like you will be grounded."
And I can
And
hear her say
oh,
it.
you can hear her, right? So I would like have a drink, but that entire night, I don't think I got drunk. I was up and I partied and I had a lot of fun, but
Yeah.
I was like so afraid to drink the way I was drinking before that like I was like, "Mom's gonna fucking kill me. I'm not gonna do it." So
Yeah.
I don't want to be that. I mean, obviously
No.
it was effective to an extent, because then when I fucking did start drinking, I was like, I drank. Um, but I think I'd like to be some kind of somewhere in the middle, like what you're describing that your dad was like. I think that's my comfort for
I
now.
mean, like,
See what
well, I
happens.
mean, where I am right now is obviously my oldest is 16.
Yeah.
So,
Woo.
yeah. But, I just think, to me, I just sit down and say, keeping the dialogue open,
Yeah.
like, I think I almost sit down and I think back on it and I'm like, the times where dad gave me $10 to go halves on a half case, I probably only had that half case, there's 3
Exactly.
here.
Yeah.
Whereas there was times that I was probably friggin', you know,
Oh, we
not in
lost
good
Crystal
shape
for a minute.
somewhere else.
Sorry, Crystal, you froze up for a second.
Oh,
You
did you get
said
me?
that there were, yeah, I got you back.
Did
You
I?
said that there were times that you weren't in good shape in other places.
Oh, probably. Where,
Yeah.
then it was just being the rebellious teenager that I was. I don't know what was wrong with me. I'm like, man, if my kids are like this, I'm gonna slap the shit out of them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I mean. I was good. I wasn't felt like I needed to rebel. I mean, there was one time. There was one time. So I was very, still am. I've always been a busty gal, we'll say. So
Yeah.
when I was like, I think I got boobs in like fucking grade 8 or something, grade 9. So I mean, you think that you'd love it, but I fucking hated it at that age because it made me stand out, and not in a good
Yeah.
way. Like boys are not nice when they're 13 and 14, no matter how big your boobs are. Like
Yep.
if
That's true.
anything, it's worse. You're a bigger target. So I hated it. But then as I got older, I hated it even more because in high school, I remember thinking, how come these boobs couldn't come along when I'm like 20? Why are they here when
Mm,
I'm like 16? Because for me, it was really difficult because I couldn't find clothing because 16-year-old girls, the clothing that was like at the mall and the girls that I went to school with, they could wear whatever the fuck they wanted because it looked cute. And at that time, that's when like low neck shirts were super popular. And like it wasn't
yeah.
like sweaters and like even crop tops probably would have been a little bit more appropriate for me. It's just like the shirts that were, remember those fucking, what do they call them? Like the big
Yeah,
like
with the bell sleeves.
bell sleeves. That's the word. It was
Yeah.
those types of tops. So they were like super
Mhm.
plunging, big long bell sleeves on the arms and like form fitting. So I remember like in high school, it was hard enough for me to find clothes that didn't show off everything, like just show off my cleavage. So now at the same time, I wore it all because I was like, whatever, this is my body. I embraced it. But like
Mhm.
back in the day, it's really funny and ironic that I think I had, I think a lot of people looked at me and thought that I got around. Like I think like just because of the way that I looked, which is so
That's
funny
funny.
because I never lost my virginity until I was 18. Like I
And then
was,
you married him.
and then I married him. You know what I mean? Like, sorry, that wasn't that big hoe that everybody thought I was, but you know, that was the reputation, I guess, or the perception that people had of me because of like the way that clothes fit my body. It was my body. It was my body. I had a
But that
fucking
was
banger
it.
body. I wish I had
Exactly.
it now. Like it's
But the
wasted on
truth
the youth.
is that's exactly what it is
Yeah.
because, when you think back on it, like how many times did that happen to other people in the same situation? You know what I mean? And it's just like, it
All right, sorry about that. We had to pause. You probably didn't notice there was a difference, but Crystal was talking and now she's not talking. Carry on, Crystal. What were you saying? I had a little bit of a
yeah,
cough.
no, I was just going to say that I think that that is a common misconception and it's not often actually right. I feel like that's just people making up
It's
stories.
it
You know what
it,
I
it
mean?
is exactly. And like, I mean, to be fair, nobody ever called me anything, but it was just like there was, it was almost like an unknown known that like, I was this, and,
It was
and I
implied.
think too, I was also very confident. So again, so like, yes, I had like a lot of cleavage and I had like one of those bodies, we'll say, in high school. And the clothes didn't fit me the way that it fit everybody else. Like it was more, I looked more adult, I guess, sometimes. So,
Yeah.
but to be fair, on top of that, I also am super outgoing and loud and
Yeah.
happy and bubbly. So like it wasn't just like the clothes, it was the clothes, but also this like crazy outgoing personality. So she must be a slut. She must
Right.
sleep around, you know what I mean?
Because
But
she talks to everybody.
she talks to everybody and flirts. Like I was always happy and I mean maybe I was flirting, maybe I just fucking seem like I'm flirting
Maybe
because
that's just you.
a woman can't smile at a man unless she's flirting. So,
Clearly, Melissa.
clearly yeah, so I mean there was that, but like there was this one time that I did have a little bit of a rebellion phase that I
Mhm.
wore a shirt, and actually it was the same shirt that I had worn to the drinking party, the party that I was drinking at that I got in trouble for. So
Right.
I'd already worn this shirt out before. It was a tube top, so it wasn't a halter. There was no or sorry, it wasn't like a low cut. There was no cleavage. It was a tube top and it was like all black, but had like a lacy overlay.
Mhm.
So it was just like that material, but it was completely dark. There was no see-through parts. Like everything was like totally black, went all the way down to like my hip huggers.
Mhm.
Like there was no skin showing whatsoever, came right up, covered up my boobs. And it had this like tie that you would tie in the back into a bow. So instead
Yep.
of tying it in the back, I was getting ready to go to a Rex Gowdy concert actually. So anybody
No.
who's yeah, Rex Gowdy was a Canadian artist from when I was in high school, so like 2004, 2005. And anyway, I remember I was getting ready to go to the concert. So I put the shirt on and instead of tying it in the back, I was like, this would look really cute as a halter and then a scarf. So I put it up around my neck as a halter and then I tied it around the middle like a scarf. And I remember being like, okay, like I'm ready to go, feeling good, feeling myself. And I remember going downstairs and my dad was like, you're not going out dressed like that. And I had no idea why. Like I couldn't, I guess my shoulders were showing too much, like literally no cleavage, no belly button. Like it was totally normal. It's just, I guess it looked a little bit too fashion trendy or too adult for him. So
Yeah.
we got into a huge fight. I was like, I'm not changing. Nope, don't care, whatever. And he's like, you're not going to the fucking concert. I don't care. I was like, and I put my foot down. I was like, fine, I won't go. He's like, get upstairs and get changed. Cause he didn't want me to not go. Like dad
Yeah.
was always a sucker too for me. Like he didn't want me to be unhappy, but he was like, I'm not comfortable in what you're wearing. So I
Right.
went upstairs and I remember I put on like a white beater tank.
Hmm.
And remember those half sweaters were really
Yep.
popular.
Yep.
So I put a half sweater on, the white beater, but I hauled it down as far as it could so that my boobs were like hanging out of this fucking shirt. And I went downstairs and I stood in front of him. I put my hand on my hip and I remember sticking my hip out and I said, fine, are you ready? I changed. And I'll never forget it because his face turned like 4 different shades of purple. Like he was so angry. I remember he looked at me and he didn't even know how, like he was screaming at me, but the words, like he couldn't figure out what words to use first. So I
Yeah.
remember he went, get the fuck up over the stairs right now and change into something fucking sensible. And he did not remember. So I stormed off up over the stairs and I was like, fine, no, I'm not going, whatever. And then anyway, I think he called out to me like another 10 minutes later and he's like, okay, listen. He's like, you got to put something sensible on. So I wore the exact same, that white beater shirt.
Hmm.
And but I hauled it up. I was like, fine, like let's just go. And I had my like half shirt on. And then as soon as I got to the concert, I hauled it down as far as it could go so that my cleavage was stuck out again because I was like, fuck you. And I think the thing about that is that I was so mad because like it's the same type of clothes that my friends could wear, but because it looked different on my body, it was considered inappropriate.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things that I rebelled about. So like I didn't rebel
Yeah.
a lot, but that was something that it was like, you know what? I cannot control how my body looks. I'm a fucking teenager. Like thinking back now, I guess that's what was going on. But like that shit's frustrating. So that was probably my only time that I actually like purposely rebelled to piss off my parents.
I'm like when I was 16, I dated a guy who was 20 because my dad hated him.
Oh my gosh.
Actually, yeah.
And so, but your dad wasn't the strict one. So
No.
you were just rebellious. Cause I'm like, I was rebellious because my parents were a bit strict. Cause like I started dating Drew when I was 18 and he was 25. And maybe that was
Yeah.
a little bit of like me being like, don't care, stop being strict, like pushing back against authority. But then like fucking married the guy. Like
Yeah,
didn't
exactly.
really,
Way to go.
I
You didn't
mean,
win that
I
one.
guess I hit a goal, not the goal I was going for at the time, but you can't really help who you fall in love with. But yeah, like
Yeah.
it's just funny to think about some of the things that we did when we were younger. So you would if you were to
Like,
talk to
for
yourself right
instance,
now, you'd say, don't be like this.
I think that I would probably say to myself, you know what? I would say that dating that guy was not worth trying to get back at your dad for it. Not even close.
No,
It was
there's
such a monster fuck up in my life
yeah,
that, and I just can't take that shit back.
no, yeah. It's like
Yeah.
that's happened. That's already done.
But on the other side of things, I can also look at it and say, at the time I was living with my dad, and if
Mhm.
I hadn't dated him, I wouldn't have fucked up so much that he ended up kicking me out so that I could go live with my mom again. And then I wouldn't have ended up with Jason. So,
So yeah, you know what? I do believe that like so that's one of the things that I struggled with when I was trying to figure out like what would you say to your 16-year-old self. So I sat
yeah,
down and I
because you don't
really
want to
thought
change
about
it.
it because I'm happy with the way my life turned out. Like I
Right.
don't have regrets because anything that like I would have regretted, like I wholeheartedly believe in everything inside of me that you either like you live and then
Mhm.
you either like you win or you learn. Like I don't believe in mistakes being bad. I believe that like mistakes are mistakes, but like something good will come out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like even if it's a lesson, right? So like it was hard to try to figure out like what I would say, but honestly like if I'm thinking back on it, I probably would tell my 16-year-old self to not change. So like as much as like I didn't rebel, I was very outgoing as a 16-year-old. So like, and again, I know that I'm an outgoing person now, but like I was very outgoing and very loud, but I also always carried this belief from as long as I can remember that I am capable of anything. Like I am capable of anything.
Right.
And anything I ever set out to do, I always did. So
Right.
I think as I got older, you start to get influenced a lot by like outside factors. You start to get influenced by, what society tells you, like, okay, you're growing up, you're getting older. Now it's time to get your job. Now it's time to, buy your house and start your family and do all the like the societal norms, right? So I
Right.
think
Yeah.
as I started getting older and getting into the swing of things, like, yes, I partied and I had fun in my 20s and whatever, but at the same time, I feel like over the years, I started to lose that like that me part of things where it was like, you can do anything, like go for it, anything you want, just fucking like start it and do it and make things happen. So I feel like if I could go back and talk to my 16-year-old self, I'd tell her to stay the same, like keep that mentality because now I'm in my 30s and I've never felt more like me than what I do now because I
Yeah.
feel like I've got that same belief that I always had. And it's almost like I shoved it down for a few years, like when society says that you
I
can't
think
do this and
though,
you can't do that,
the
you
funny
know?
thing about it is I think that honestly, everybody kind of does that in their 20s. It's like,
Yeah.
you go from being a teenager, in your teenager, you're invincible, you can do anything, like you're fucking untouchable,
Yeah.
right? And then you hit your 20s and it's just like, what am I supposed to do with my life?
You
And
don't
so
know.
you're trying to like just traipse through the 20s. Then you have like failures, you have this, you have that, you have like people coming in and out of your life. You just don't know what to be at, kind of thing. You're still trying to figure your shit out. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
then you hit your 30s, and in your 30s, it's like you finally starting to see like that all these things are coming together for you. You
Yeah.
got your shit together. You're doing what you want to do, and so that confidence does come back. I
I
think
think
honestly,
too, a
your
big thing
20s are
for me,
garbage.
20s, well, we can get into that because I love my 30s. But I think a big
Yeah.
thing for me that I would really say is like don't change like that idea that like you can do anything, but also don't do things based on how other people are going to perceive it. Because I feel
Yeah.
like I didn't do that when I was in high school. When I was in high school and, when
No.
I was younger, I should say, I did things that made me happy that I wanted to do because I enjoyed doing them. When I got
Mhm.
older, you start to do things and you start to look at yourself through other people's eyes. So like you start to make your
Yeah.
decisions based off how you think other people will react to the decisions that you make. And it's like, what?
Mhm.
Like, why would you ever
Yeah.
fucking do something because,
You're
not
not
why would you ever do something because it's going to please somebody else? Because obviously, yes, you still want to like be a good person and be nice and make people happy. But like, you can't forget that you're the person you have to make happy first and that you need to take
all the
care of
time.
yourself. So I think that like if I would go back, I would just say like, the opinions of other people they're just that. They're just opinions. They literally mean nothing. You need to do
Yeah.
what's going to make you happy and what's going to set your soul on fire, not what you think
Mhm.
other people want you to do. Right. So I
Yeah.
think like
Definitely.
really thinking about it, that is what I would say to my 16-year-old self.
Yeah, yours is so much better than mine.
It took me a lot to figure it out. I'd also tell her to loosen
Mhm.
up a little bit and that your virginity is not the biggest thing in the world. People think you're a slut. Go out and slut it up. No, not really, but a little bit. Not to slut it up. I think that I don't know. Teenagers just they make sex so like important, and it is at that age. I mean, obviously, you don't want to just go around and sleep with everybody, but at the same time, it's also not like I don't know. It's not as big of a deal that I think that like you put the
I
pressure on yourself. And I was like terrified of it when I was a kid. Like I was
But
fucking
that's
petrified.
because of what we've seen in movies and stuff. Like
Yeah.
realistically, here's the thing. Number one, there's like this huge importance on it. And I'm not saying that it's
Mhm.
not important.
No, it's definitely important. Like you definitely, like I mean, it's emotional. There's a lot of emotion that does come with it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's okay and it's healthy to respect that, I think.
Mhm.
On the other side of that, I also think that everybody owes it to themselves to explore it whether that's with one person consistently learning different things and whatnot,
Mhm.
or if it's with multiple people. And I
Yeah.
really don't think, as far as I'm concerned, that anybody else has any fucking business to tell you what you can and can't do with it.
Yeah.
Sorry to tell
100%.
you, this shit's mine. I can
Yeah.
do what I like with it.
Exactly. And like there's a lot like too, like you say, like you grow up with people saying that you have to do it this way and you have to, lose your virginity to somebody that you love. And like it got to the point, like me and Drew weren't in love when it happened, but I was also like, Jesus, Melissa, you're 18. Fucking like
Just get it over and done with.
get it over with. But at the same time, too, I mean, obviously we were in a relationship and we did care about each
Yeah,
other
yeah.
and everything. But like the other thing is too, I think a lot of it, I think my parents were very, very lucky with me because I wasn't allowed to date either until I was
Right. Yeah.
17. Wasn't allowed to date until I was 17. And oh fuck, I hated that because it my only option was to sneak around. Like there was
Yeah.
no open dialogue. Do you know what I mean? So like I think that I don't know if like I am the way that I am because they were so strict or if it was just that I was just like afraid of sex and that I wasn't kind of like going around because I didn't really know. I didn't have anybody to talk to about it. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
Mm.
and I think that's the other thing. I mean, like having conversations about it is, I think it's super important.
Mhm.
Like that's another place where, say, like my parents differed in the sense that, like, my dad was the one who put me on the pill.
Yeah.
Um, you know what I mean? But mom wouldn't have had that conversation with me, kind of thing. She was just
Yeah.
much more reserved. She's not like, you know what I mean? Like we're very similar in some aspects, obviously, because she's my mom, but
Mhm.
um, I learned all of my momming from her.
Yeah.
You know what I
It's
mean?
funny. It's funny
But
too to hear you say about like you wouldn't have been, such a cunt to your mom and all this sort of stuff because you are literally like mom of life. Like you are mama. You know what I mean? Like you just I've known, I guess you've been a mom ever since I've known you, but like you
yeah, that's
always
true.
to me are like the ultimate mom. Like
Aw,
you're respectful. You are. And like I know our
so
friends would say the same,
sweet.
but you are like the ultimate mom. Like you are like the mom to look up to. So it's just so funny to think about you as like a little fucker, like as a teenager.
Man, I'm not even
Funny.
joking. Like, I'm gonna tell you right now, it's so funny because like I had the boys, that was all well and good, but when I had Harper and I
Mhm.
was in the hospital, like my dad came in, he was at the hospital visiting. She was like, I think she was under the lights or something at the time.
Mhm.
And we went down to Tim Hortons, and me and Jason and dad were sat down at the table in the hospital at Tim Hortons, and dad goes, "Well, you finally got your girl." And I said, "Yeah, I know, right?" And he
Yeah.
goes, "I'm so happy." And I said, "Yeah, me too." And he was like, "No," he was like, "I'm happy because you got your girl and you're going to see what kind of shit she's going to put you through."
It's so
And I was
funny
just like,
because she's not going to be like that at all.
she might
You
not.
can
I don't know.
tell.
I don't think she
I
is.
no,
Yeah.
she's not. She's gonna be a little angel. Like she's probably good. She listen, she is so outgoing, but she's
She
also very
is.
like confident and
Yeah.
very open with you. So I feel like she's going to be a force to be reckoned with, for one,
Yeah.
but she's going to
Yeah.
be a force to be reckoned with who's like, Mom, this is what's going on in my life right now. So I
Yeah.
don't think she's going to do things deliberately to rebel. I think she's going to do things and be like, hey
She's
mom,
not
you
that one.
you on board? She's going to be Moxie. I know we talked about this movie a couple of times. She is so
Yep.
going to be, that's Harper. Harper is a
Yeah.
Moxie kind of girl. Like
I think you're
she's
right.
going
I
to
think
lead the
like she's
world.
going to be like a force to be reckoned with, but at the same time, like she's not going to be the type, she's just not going to be an asshole to me for the sake of being an asshole to me.
Exactly.
Cole might.
Yeah, he's got that in him. But I don't think he's got that
He's
in
like
him
me.
to be an asshole. He's a clown. He's got that funny
Yeah,
bone. He's got that funny bone and he likes to get a reaction.
he
So I
does.
think that's what like if
He
Cole
does.
does things, I don't think he's gonna do it to piss you off. I think he's gonna do it to push your buttons to see where the limits are.
But see, that's where I feel like he's most like me in the sense that, like, I'm sure I've told you this story about Tracy and John, that
Yeah.
Tracy. So Tracy's 30th birthday party, when I was telling her the story, her and her mom, okay,
Yeah.
who, I mean, I've known Tracy since I was 5, for anybody who
Mhm.
doesn't know.
Yeah. For
So
all of our
I hung
listeners.
out at their house a lot. Like,
Mhm.
I literally used to walk in there and just open up the fridge because I was there that much.
Yeah.
Like,
It was like a
you know
cousin.
what I mean? Pretty much, yeah. So I remember going to her 30th birthday party, and I'm standing up there at the table, and of course I had a few drinks in me. Everything was going good. We were having a blast.
Yeah.
And we were having a conversation, and I was telling her about how I had worn I had come from the gym that morning, but I had made the mistake of wearing gray sweatpants. Okay. So
Yeah.
I made the mistake of wearing gray sweatpants, which really, for
You
anybody
don't
who
you
doesn't
don't do that at the
realize it,
gym. Yeah.
you don't do that, because
Mm-mm.
I'm just going to tell you that it looked like I pissed myself, but I
Mhm.
really didn't.
Yeah.
Anyway,
All
so I was
that
telling
sweat
the
just
story
shows right
about
through.
basically, I was just like, yeah, like you should have seen it. I was like, there's all kinds of sweaty vagina, right? To
Yeah.
Tracy's mom.
Yeah.
And then she like loses it. She's laughing her ass off, right? And I just look at her and I'm like, see, Helen? I was like, I knew I could make you laugh. I told you I was funny. And she was like, you were always funny, Crystal. It just wasn't appropriate when you were 12.
Which is, yeah. And sometimes, like,
100% true.
when we're younger, we say those things to get the reaction, to press our limits, because we want to be grown-ups and
Yeah.
we want to see what we're allowed to do and what we can get away with and what people think is
Yeah.
funny. And oh,
Basically, what you have here right now is
yeah,
exactly the same as I've always been.
I
That's a
like that.
problem.
I like that. I like that. Do you think you've rebelled a little bit more because your parents separated? I know we
100%.
talked before about like the anger that you felt like
Yep.
when you were younger. Yeah. So it was
Definitely.
like, fuck you guys,
And I also hated my stepmom.
which doesn't help.
No. So there
No.
was a little bit of that too, right? I mean,
And I
there was
feel like
not
too,
that I
like
hated her. There was a
you
lot of
weren't happy
aggression.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah,
And like I think the difference too in like back then and nowadays, like it's more common now.
that's true.
I think it's more common now, like divorce in general, but it's
Hmm.
also more common for kids to see like therapists about this
Yes.
stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like we've matured, I hope, as like a society. And like it seems like a lot more parents like who get a divorce tend to then say, okay, like this is, I don't want this to fuck up my child, or
Hmm.
like I don't want them to go through a rebellious phase, like in the sake of us, or be angry or hold on to any resentment. So like I'm gonna set them up to talk to somebody, because there is a difference between like an adult relationship, and sometimes they just don't work out. Like families don't always
Yeah.
stay together, and that's fine. But we need to teach our kids that like it's better that we're not together, as opposed
Yeah.
to just like mommy and daddy don't want to be together anymore and then split up and then never let the kid express their feelings, because that's where like the anger comes from.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that the other side of it is that you're never really let into that. And I can understand why to a certain extent. Like, I understand it's an adult relationship kind of thing, but
Yeah.
there does have to be some sort of explanation, because then you don't know what
Percent,
happened.
because you're just a kid and you're like, this is my family, this is how life
Just
is.
blew up.
And then your family is just changed overnight. So it's like, they're not easy things, and I don't think that it's anything to be taken lightly. And that,
No.
when people decide to separate, and sometimes it's for the best, most times it's for the best. If you're deciding to separate, then there's a reason. But I definitely think that it, like, that's where co-parenting is so
Oh
important.
yes. My
And that's
God,
why,
yes.
like, why I always say, like, remember we talked to before about like holding grudges and stuff. That's
Hmm.
why I don't think that there should be any room for a grudge in a relationship. Like, okay, somebody cheated on somebody else, like, boo fucking who. You have a child to raise, so like you need to put all that shit aside, and
Yeah.
that doesn't come down to the child. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like if somebody is separating for whatever reason,
Mhm.
I think that it needs to be something that still needs to be handled together when it comes to the child,
Yeah,
because
I do. I think
you
so
get a lot
too.
of angry adults that way,
Yes.
right?
And like, I'm not saying, like,
I
God
don't think
forbid
you're
anything
an
should.
angry adult, for the
No,
record.
no, no. No. I mean, and I'm not now, but again, like going back to
Growing up.
that last episode, like I probably was then,
Hmm.
and I wasn't 100% sure of how to express it.
Yeah.
And whereas now, um, you know, I know myself more. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? And I think that's probably part of it. It was just a hard time growing up.
We're in the 30s. Well, you're learning how to be an adult. It's the hardest time anyway. And then
Yeah.
on top of it being like, such a difficult time, then you've got this other trauma. It's very traumatic, right? I'm going to
Yeah.
call it what it
Yeah.
is. It's a trauma, and you
Mhm.
don't know how to deal with it. Nobody's taught you how to deal with it. And then nobody's talking to you about how it makes you feel. And you're like, well, fuck all you. Like, I'm just going to go get shit faced and have sex with this 20-year-old in a field somewhere. Like,
I mean, and the funny thing is like I sit down and I think about it and I'm going, like, man, my 16th birthday,
Oh boy.
um, like I had just moved out to dad's. He threw me a sweet 16 birthday party. My stepbrother and his band played. They were deadly. Um, they were. I mean, it was all like cover music, obviously, but it was just like they
A
played
good
Pearl
band.
Jam, they played GNR, it was deadly stuff, right? So they used to practice down in my dad's sawmill. Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, he threw me the sweet 16 birthday party, bought me a little pendant with the sweet 16 thing on
I had
it.
that one too. I loved it.
Right?
Yeah.
Over at the Lions Club in Come by Chance, and like had the whole hall rented out. And I legitimately spent the whole night in a field across the street from the Lions Club smoking hash. Swear to God, man.
Do
Like
you know
stuff.
what's so funny? I never did drugs until your house
Mhm.
when I was, oh my God, early 20s when we did
I
bottle totes.
remember.
Remember we did bottle
Yeah,
totes
that's
through
what I
shit?
was at that night. I was 16.
That's so funny. I was afraid to do drugs. I
Yeah.
was afraid to do drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
know.
that was a good time. I mean, I can only remember bits and pieces of it.
Yeah. So you had the
But
best time. What was I
I
doing on my
mean,
16th birthday?
mm,
Fuck, I don't remember it. My birthday was
wasn't the
always in the
worst time.
summer, so it was always good. I think, you know what? I think my 16th birthday, I think we all had like a group of friends just went to Middle Cove Beach and had a fire.
Ooh,
I think I know. It was like, whoa, calm
that sounds
down.
tame.
I think I had a screwdriver and like blew out a cake, a candle or whatever. Like, look out. No hash was had. I mean, I'm sure my friends probably smoked a lot of hash. I didn't have any.
Well, the funny thing is that like at that time, when you were in town, that wasn't something that was like widely available, but yet out around the bay it was.
Yeah,
And it
that's
was
so
like vice
funny.
versa. It was very funny. Anyway,
Yeah.
I
But
enjoyed
no, I gotta say,
good.
I love I think I was talking to somebody about this the other day, and I love my 30s. Like
Yeah,
everybody's like
loving
in,
it.
you know, in your 20s, oh, I'm afraid to say 30 and blah blah blah. I don't want to turn 30. Oh, I'm the big 30. And I'm like, man, 30s are fucking deadly. Like
But
I
you don't
just
know
feel
that.
you don't like I feel more confident. I don't look back and say, oh, I wish I was 22. Do I wish I could wake up after a night of drinking and not be hungover and be able to like fucking just go again? Sure. Do I wish I'd be able to like wake up after going to bed at 6 a.m. and be to work for 8 o'clock, fucking ready to roll, and then go drink again at 4? Like fucking yeah. But
Right?
that's probably it. That and my metabolism. I definitely miss my
Yeah,
20 odd
I
year
miss
old
that.
metabolism. But like
Yeah.
that's about it. Like other than that, I'm happy with the stages of my life as I'm going through them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like and now in my 30s, like I just feel happy and complete and confident. I feel like I've got the sense of like I can do anything back again. Like I'm not doing things to please other people. I'm doing things to please myself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's it. Like, you know, that's the magic is like you just I feel more free, I guess. And maybe it's not an age thing, maybe it's a me thing, but I definitely feel like my 30s are more freeing. And I'm not afraid of like getting
Oh,
older. I'm
I
not
felt
afraid of
that way.
40. I'm not afraid of 50. I'm like, man, the more and I've always said this, the more birthdays you have, the longer you live. So why is anybody ever sad on their birthday?
Yeah.
Like, why would you ever be sad on your birthday? That's another
Right.
fucking year you just got to have on this earth. And so many people would give up
Yeah.
everything to have one more year. Like
It's true.
40's awesome, 30's awesome, fucking
Like in all
50,
honesty,
whatever.
I did have a hard time with 29 to 30 at first
Yeah.
because I was just like, oh my God, I got to say goodbye to my 20s. Like, this is so sad. But then, like, little did I know how much my 30s would bring, in all honesty. I had no
Hmm.
idea.
Yeah.
When I was 29, what was I doing with my life? Oh, I had 3 kids already.
Hmm.
So Harper
Sick.
was probably right. Harper was only 1, which
Hmm.
means I mean I was doing daycare. I was
Yeah.
doing in-home childcare. That's what I was doing. And in all honesty, I thought that was it.
This is
Like
this
that's what
is
I was
this
just
is
gonna
life.
do.
Yeah, from now
Yeah,
on.
right. I was just basically going to be just raising babies forever and ever and ever is basically what I was
Yeah.
thinking, whether they were mine or somebody else's. I just thought that that was it, right?
Yeah.
But little did I know that I would sit down one day, early in my 30s and say, you know what, like I just want something more out of this life.
Yeah.
Like, not that I don't mind, not that I don't think that childcare is important. I think that anybody who wants to help mold and shape
Oh my God,
the
so
youth,
important. Yeah.
like the minds of little people, I think that they're like,
See,
I think it's
what it
such an
is,
important job.
there is something for everybody. There is
Yeah,
something that calls each individual. So there are people who like your calling is to work with children, your calling is to raise children, your calling is this, your calling is that. The thing is, you weren't happy because you were not doing what your like soul or whatever you want to call it, but what you were wanting to be, like what your body called out for was not like, obviously yes, it's raising
something
your own
else was
children,
calling to me.
but you wanted to do something else. And if you just like, if you resist what you feel like doing, like when you people start resisting and being like, oh, like, oh, I want to start a podcast, but I'm not going to because that's not right, you're not going to make any money at it. Well, guess what, you're resisting something that could be fucking amazing. So like, just
Exactly.
do
Just do
it
it.
and just see where things lead, like even
Yep.
when I got into real estate, like, oh my God, the amount of people that will tell you that it's crazy because it's super expensive for one. It's really hard to get into. It's a hard job to
Yep.
do. You're not going to make any money because like a lot of people think it's easy money, but it's actually super expensive to do. And then
It's
you
not.
got to, it's
Yep.
not fucking easy money by any means.
You have to
So
work.
like you have to work. And like when I remember when I first like I think floated around the idea, I was probably like 17 or 18. And I remember that was one of the first things one of my girlfriends said, oh, that's a really hard job. I don't know, that's hard to get into. This is this and this is that. And it's like, fuck man, if you listen to what everybody else tells you, you wouldn't do anything ever. Like you just do
Yep.
something that feels right. And when it feels right is when you'll be successful, because like you start it, there's probably no clear picture on how you're going to do anything, but you get started and then the ways start coming to you, like doors start opening
Yep.
up for you when you start focusing on what feels right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you were watching kids and you had this day home and you were successful at it and you were doing great and you were doing a great job for like the world. And I'm sure the people whose children you watched are thankful for you every day that you were doing it at the time. But at the same time, if
Yeah.
there's something else pulling you in another direction, just fucking follow it, go in that direction, because
Yeah.
chances are
And
that's
that was it.
going to lead to more happiness.
Well, yeah, right. And like, it was just one of those things that like again, I hit my 30s and I kind of felt like I was getting my swing back a little bit, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I kind of moved along and now I'm fucking Jesus, man. Yeah. Now I'm not that far away from entering the next decade. But in
Yep.
all honesty, like
40.
at first I kind of like was just like, this is gonna be awful. But
Mhm.
on the other side of things, I'm sitting there going like, what if my 40s brings things that are even more amazing than what my
Mhm.
30s have brought?
And they
And like,
will.
and they will, because I'm sitting here and I'm just like, you know what?
You're
Like
putting
my
it out
kids are
there.
getting older and like I have more time to do things that I want to do for myself, kind of thing. And besides that, honestly, the older I get, the less fucks I give about what anybody thinks.
Yes.
So it's true.
Like, let's
I'm like,
clap about
by the
that
time
because
I'm
that's so
70,
important.
I'm not going to give any fucks ever.
You're gonna now I know why my dad just farts when he wants to fart, you know?
Exactly. That's what it is, right?
Like, for
That's
anybody
that's the
listening,
point that I aspire to.
yeah, for anybody listening, I hope you listened to last week's podcast because that's a little callback there. But if not, then go back and listen to it. I'm not fucking
Yeah.
explaining it again. Like, go listen. Jesus. And download it while you're at it because that helps our stats.
And
We'd really like a
subscribe,
sponsor soon. So like download these episodes
right?
and subscribe. Yes. But
Yeah.
yeah, no,
And that
that's so
shit.
true. This is a good conversation. This was a good topic.
Yeah.
So
Right.
what are some of the other questions that you had? We'll fire off a few.
Okay. This one is super important.
Oh
Okay.
Jesus. That means it's not
So make
important.
sure.
What is it? What is it?
Okay. So there was like once upon a time a great debate. Okay.
Oh geez.
And it
Yep.
wasn't about Batman and the Beatles.
Okay. Okay.
It was about sweatpants.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw this thing that was like, basically gray sweatpants are like lingerie for men as far as women are concerned. What's your stance on it?
Well, like, I'm not gonna lie to you. My husband has a lot of gray sweatpants. I think gray sweatpants are like
Right?
what he buys. He's got black ones too. Um, and I would jump him in those or in black ones or in like jeans, or it doesn't really matter to me, but I don't look at him and go, damn, you got them gray joggers on again. You know what? It depends. It depends. So no, they're not like lingerie for me. I don't look at them and be like, oh yeah, you really fucking dolled yourself up. Like, are they tapered? Ooh, are they fucking tapered at the ankle? Like, give me some of that. Like, no, that's not my
They
thought.
got
But
elastic at the
they got an
ankle.
elastic in there. Hey, babe, like, what's up? But I will tell you that something that I really enjoy is when we both
Mhm.
get into our comfortable clothes. Like, that turns me on. Like, I know that's funny, but like, if we have like a Saturday night in and I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting cozy. Like, that fucking does it for me. Like, so he'll throw on his gray joggers and I'll throw on my fucking tapered gray joggers, which are equally sexy, probably the same size as his. um that gets me going. I enjoy that, but that's more of like a love thing than it is like a that looks like lingerie on you thing. Like, I know hands down, like, I'll put on my joggers and he'll be like, yeah, like, look at us cozy, and we'll fucking get it right on. But like, I can guarantee that if I'm wearing my gray joggers or if I like come out dressed in lingerie, the lingerie is going to instantly like fucking take it from six to midnight. Like, as opposed to the joggers might take it from like six and then like a little bit slower up. And same kind of goes
Six
for me.
on its way to 10.
Yes, six on its way to 10, on its way to 11. So like, but with the gray joggers on him, like, I'm like, yeah, I like it, but if he came out wearing a suit, it'd probably be a little bit different as opposed to the lingerie way. So I'm not going to say it. Yeah, I'm going to say it's not like lingerie for me, but it doesn't turn me off. I guess that's the best way to say it. What
Yeah.
about you? What's your
Yeah,
stance?
I'm pretty much the same actually. I'm just like, it really doesn't
I
matter.
I think I've heard that before too. I've heard
Yeah,
that
I have
before. Like,
definitely heard it.
but yeah, no, I don't
But
agree. I don't think it's a turn off
well,
again, but I'm not like,
I don't
damn, baby.
disagree, but I
Yeah.
don't agree.
Yeah. I'm not like, ooh, did you just work out? Is that duck butter down your ass crack? Like, just the sweat I can see there. Like, is it because of the imprint? Is it that women think of it as lingerie because you can
I
see like
think
more
it's
of an
the
imprint of their dick? Is that what it
yeah,
is?
I think so. I think it's like I think that's what it is. I think it's like a shape thing. It's like I don't know.
Like taped to the
It's
leg.
got to be that.
Yeah. Because
It's got to
like
be
this,
more like
just
the
the style
silhouette,
of it. Yeah. No, just, yeah. I can see that. But yeah.
right?
Okay. I get it. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's not lingerie for
Yep.
me.
Hmm. Interesting.
I like nudity better.
I don't.
I like fucked up
I'm
stuff
like
too, though. Like, without getting too into it, not your average
like
gal.
Enya.
Yeah. Okay, I didn't like that. That just came on during. It's different. Okay. I didn't put it there. It was clearly a distraction. I had to talk about it after. Again, if you don't know what we're talking about, go back a couple episodes. You will hear the story. It has to do with sex music. It was fucking funny.
It was so funny. I
Oh, it was a good
died.
time. It was a good time. But anyway, yeah. So next
Yeah.
question.
Hold on. I gotta bring it up.
Okay.
I'm gonna disappear for a second.
Well, you're not, because your
Uh
beautiful picture is there whenever you black out. But for anybody listening, they
oh
can't
well,
see us
see, there you
anyway.
go.
But if you're, we also YouTube
Right.
this, folks. Don't forget.
Oh, okay. So here's a good one for you.
Okay.
And this was brought up last year as well at some point, but I
To me,
recently saw it come up again. No,
or
no.
just like in general,
Just like as a yeah, like a
a question
generalized
to the
thing.
world. Yeah.
Um, pretty much, yeah. Like, do you have an inner monologue?
Yes. Yes.
Because
Yes. I
okay, so
remember this.
right? Remember
Explain.
this? Okay. So then I saw it come up again the other day, people asking about whether or not somebody has an inner monologue or not. So of course, anybody who doesn't know what I'm talking about, an inner monologue is basically like, okay, if I'm sitting down and I'm doing something, like I often talk to myself in my head. And my voice is my voice, like
I
in my
haven't,
head.
I am the narrator of my life in my mind. Like, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yes. It's kind of like that movie. What's that movie with Will Ferrell and friggin' Emma Thompson where like she's like narrating
no,
the whole thing and then he hears it sometimes all of a sudden. You don't remember
no,
that movie? I'll figure it out and then I'll post it. But anyway,
no idea.
so basically, when I go through my life, like to the point where sometimes I have these whole thought processes happening, but I'll
Mhm.
finish the sentence out loud. And then
Yeah, I
Jason
talk to
looks at me
myself.
and he's
Yep,
just like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And then
all
I'm
the
like,
time.
and then he's like, and he looks at me and he's just like, "We were not having a conversation. I don't
Yeah,
know what happened there."
yeah.
Right?
So there,
But there are people who don't.
yeah. See, that's something that fucked me right up. So I heard that as well, and I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, what? So your mind, because my mind is just constantly all day long, just on a
me too.
constant trek of thoughts, and they're
Hmm.
thoughts that are spoken in my voice in my head. It's like, oh hey, it's
Me too.
tea today. Oh, I wonder, is the door locked? What am I gonna have for breakfast? Oh, did I do that task? Oh, I better text this person back.
Right?
Oh, that tea is really good. I really have to pee now. Like, and it's just
Hmm.
literally like you cannot
All the time.
think fast enough. It's just different thoughts, like going in my voice. But when I read that, like somebody doesn't have an inner monologue, I'm like, so how do you know what to say? Like, you know what I mean? Like my
Well,
thoughts, I don't fucking know. It just boggles me. I don't understand. I don't
it's
get
not
it.
even just that. I'm just like, so what's happening in there? That's
Like it's
my
just
biggest
quiet. It's
question.
just
I'm
quiet. Is
like,
there crickets?
do you hear like Western music and there's tumbleweeds going? I don't understand what's happening. What's going
Whistle,
on
just a
in your fucking
constant
head?
whistle.
And I'm just like, that's all I can think.
Yeah,
I'm just like, I don't know what's happening in
I
there.
hear.
Like,
I would
how
say
do you not
crickets.
have any thought process?
Like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know, but I have one. I don't think I've ever met
Okay.
somebody who doesn't. I feel like the majority of people, I would love for our listeners to like write us and
Weigh
give
in.
us some
Yeah.
insight on like if like they do or don't have an inner monologue, because yeah, it's something that I just assumed because you don't know what you don't know. So growing up, I
No, that's
have
right.
this, so everybody has this, in your
Mhm.
head. So I would like to see if it's the most common to have an inner monologue or if that's not common to have an
Right.
inner monologue.
So I'll tell you, the reason why it came up is
Mhm.
because like I was on this group for ADHD. And
Right.
so this girl had put it up like basically saying like this is how my brain works. Like, are there people out there that don't have an inner monologue that have ADHD? Because then I guess she was trying to find some type of correlation like maybe as
Yeah.
somebody,
Maybe
like
it's
the
part of it.
hyperactivity is giving you the inner monologue kind of thing,
Yeah.
right? But no,
There
there's
was no
some people that
correlation.
were on the
It's just,
no correlation
yeah.
whatsoever.
Yeah.
So spoiler,
You're looking
there's
it up.
nothing.
Yeah.
Basically, do more research.
Super interesting though.
Yeah, but it was because I was just when I thought about it, I was like, shit, I remember seeing that, and then I was like, oh, I got to put this down for the podcast
Yeah. All right.
because, of course, basically my brain.
Yeah. Well, because I always do it. And I remember hearing that and I thought the same thing. But
Yeah.
okay, one more. Let's do one more question.
Okay. One more question is, do you think that a relationship should always be 50-50?
In what context?
Um, I don't
Like
know.
50
You just
50 on what? like money
like
or
everything,
decisions?
like everything, like
And what
as
kind of
in,
so we're talking like a romantic relationship.
yes, yeah.
Okay.
So
So like
romantic relationship, say you and Drew. Do you think that you're always 50-50?
um it's such a broad question.
I know, it really is.
That's a really, you'd have to almost like break it down to specific scenarios because like, yeah, like do you mean like household chores, like money, paying bills? So like, okay, here's the thing. I'll get into the money side of things because that
Hmm.
seems to be a huge thing for a lot of relationships, because
Yep.
I also think it differs between the stages of relationships that you're in as well.
Hmm.
So it's
Okay.
not just like a relationship. It's like, well, how are we dating? Are we married? How long have we been together? Do we have any kids? Do we have a house together? That kind of thing. So like, and that's with like responsibilities too. I think all of this, like the 50-50 thing, um, super broad. So like there are specific situations that might be different than the others. But say if we're talking money, we share everything. So like for us, like we're married, we own a house, we have cars, we have a kid, but dogs and I call them kids. So we've
Yep.
got, all of this shared stuff. We are a family. Like so we consider ourselves one unit. So all of our money just goes into an account. We don't keep track over who makes what. It's just like in the account, this is where the bills go. If I want to buy something, I buy something. If he wants to buy something, he buys something. If we're going to get something elaborate, we discuss it.
Yep.
So, and that's what worked for us. And I feel like I would need that to work because I feel like when you get into a certain stage of your relationship, when you go so far and you keep money separate, I think that's where it can get complicated because that's where people start to keep score. And that's another
Hmm.
thing when it comes to 50-50, because a lot of it too, you start to rethink about it when you have kids. So like, I never really thought about a lot of stuff because like Drew cooks, he fucking like cleans, like but he was like the cook of the house. There was no way it was 50-50.
Yeah.
But like when it comes down, then you have a kid and you feel like that's going to be equal. And then like we got to the point when we first had Scarlett where we were like keeping score, where I'd be like, well, I got up
Mm.
with her last time. I got up with her last night. I changed this diaper. You got to change the next diaper or whatever. And that was actually causing more stress on the relationship than the baby was
Yeah.
because you're doing the way that in your head you think it's supposed to be. So for 50-50, I I think the broad answer would be that I think that there is no percentage in a relationship. I think a relationship is just a relationship. I don't think that a man does one thing and a woman does another. I think that each relationship is individual, depending
Hmm.
on what stage it's in and depending on what works for you. So, like, this is what works for us money wise, this is what works for us responsibilities around the house wise. He does more than me in this area, I do more than him in that area, but sometimes we swap off and we pick up each other's slack when need be.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's what I kind of mean. Like I feel like I'm on the same page as you in that it does change from like stage to stage, but I feel
Mhm.
like it's not ever like fully 50-50. I feel like it's a sliding scale. You know what I mean?
100%.
Like one day it
100%.
might be I'm 80, Jason's 20, but
Mhm.
then on another day he might be 100 and I'm 0. Like
Like, and I mean, if you think about stuff too, because like, so before Drew started with the job that he's with now, he
Mhm.
was cooking every single meal. So he would get
Yeah.
up, he would do breakfast, he would have lunches done, he would do suppers, like everything in between. If I wanted something, I literally just had to ask and he would cook it. I
Yeah.
didn't cook anything. He was also cleaning up all the dishes. He would take care of the kitchen all the time. I'd probably sweep and vacuum the floors. He was taking out garbages. Like he did the majority of like the stuff around the house. I don't even know what I did to be honest to contribute because he would clean up the dog shit. Like he just did. He does it all.
Yeah.
So when he's working now where he's working, I have his suppers ready for him when he gets home. I'm doing the house cleaning, I'm running the baby around, I'm doing the majority of it now. But it's like it's different stages of our life, different stages of relationship. I have the garbages out in the mornings, like when
Yeah.
the garbage needs to go out, like I clean the cat litter. Like it's just one of those things that um you just do what needs to work at the time that it needs to work, and
Yeah,
if
I
you
think
do
so
feel
too.
like you're taking on too much, um just bring it up. Like that's the biggest thing for me in a relationship is to just don't ever shut down communication. If you feel like you're doing more than the other person and you're starting to resent them, you gotta fucking speak up about that shit. Because like if you're gonna be pissed off because somebody's like, not folding towels or not helping with dinner or not doing this or not doing that, you have to tell them because they can't read minds and they
Yeah.
just assume if you don't speak up about it, you can go around the house and huff and puff all you fucking want. Newsflash, they're not noticing
No.
because we are selfish as a race, like as a human race, we are
Yeah.
selfish beings. So we're going to
Of
notice
course we are.
ourselves first, and then we're going to notice like our surroundings second. So, if I'm huffing around and I'm pissed off at Drew, he might notice it. Most times he doesn't. So like,
Yeah,
and then that
and
just makes you more mad.
Yeah. And
Like,
then
so
there's a
just fucking
good
talk about
chance
it.
that in all honesty, the huffing and puffing that happens is really only just going to make, you
Makes you
know,
angrier.
yeah, well, it makes you angrier. It makes them like not even want to broach that. It's like, nope, not touching
Nope.
that.
Not dealing with it. Don't want to get yelled at for no reason. I didn't do anything
Mhm.
wrong. And then you're over like festering about all the things that they did wrong. So really, I would say like there is no such thing as 50-50 in a relationship. I think it like you said, it's a sliding scale. It
Mhm.
goes from stage to stage to like whatever. It's just whatever works. You
Yeah.
basically just kind of have to find your partner, like your person that you can slide back and forth with,
Mhm.
and if it's something that's not happening, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not fucking easy. Like relationships are difficult.
Oh my God, yes.
You're dealing with two completely different people and you're making one family and one relationship work. So, it definitely takes a lot of work, but I feel like if it's something that like you just can't do, like, and you're keeping score and you're getting mad at each other and there is no communication, then maybe it's not the right relationship, like I
Yeah.
feel you do need to be able to bring things up when you feel like you're doing more. If you are looking for a little bit more help, to ask, and you just got to work on it. But like, yeah, I don't think 50-50 exists.
Yeah. I think you're
Doesn't.
right.
It just doesn't. And
No,
like
'cause I just,
biologically, we're wired to do different things too. Like when it comes to kids, I feel like women are biologically wired to do things differently than what men would do it. And we're also, in my case, biologically wired to nag at the men for doing it a different way. And that's something that I know I've had to work on. I had to realize that it was happening and then be like, okay, maybe, like the beautiful part about having two parents is the fact that they are going to be different,
yeah, 100%.
like you're not getting raised by just one person, you're getting raised by more than one so that you can be more well-rounded. So
Mm.
I sometimes have to remind myself of that and be like, it's okay if he does things in a different order or a different way, or like fucking let dad be dad, let mom be mom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I kind of almost wish that I thought that earlier. Like, and you know what I mean? Like, this
Yeah.
is probably where, say, your parenting in your 30s brought you,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, because
realistically,
you had Ethan when you were 21.
one.
Yeah, 21. So like that's young.
Yeah.
That's like, and I only really even figured out like the parenting, like we're just figuring out our relationship in our 30s, and we got together before I was 20. So like,
Yeah.
we're together a long fucking time, and like relationships do take a lot of work, and they're not easy. So it's definitely something to it's trial and error, a lot of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then yeah, when it comes to parenting, the first fucking bit, like as a first time mom and a first time dad, you don't know what you're doing. And they can
Yeah.
write a million books. There's still different ways to do everything. And then one parent wants to do it one way, the other parent wants to do it the other way. You're keeping score with each other. And like once we realized that we were keeping score about who's doing what and how well you stayed with her so I could go run out. And then it's like, okay, I'm gonna come home and then you're gonna throw her back at me and vice versa. And it's like we love our kid. we
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
want to spend time with our child, but you also want that free time. So
Mhm.
when we stopped making it quote unquote equal is when
Yeah.
everything got better, because there's just some days that I'm going to do it all. There's some days he's going to do it all. And if you start keeping score, you start resenting each other. So
Definitely. Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, like in our 30s, if we had to start this when I was like 19 and he was, I don't know,
Well, I
40.
mean, I just sit
I
down and
don't
say, like,
remember.
we were raising babies and we were still technically babies. I
Your
know that in
babies.
your 20s you're not, but like you
But
are.
you are. Yeah,
You know what I
totally.
mean? You still have so much to figure out.
Yeah, but you have the energy.
I did. I had the
Yeah.
energy and I had the bounce back. That was
The
always a good thing.
metabolism too. What
Right?
up?
Fuck,
Yeah.
man.
So
It's
there's pros.
great.
Listen, there's pros and cons. That's why we say that like there's no hurry with life. Like just live it.
Yeah.
Like you started your kids early, I started mine late, and neither one of them was wrong.
No,
There was
God
just
no.
there was definitely pros and cons to both, and
Yeah.
it's nice to live it. It's nice to share the experiences and like discuss.
Yeah.
I love this. I'm having so much fun with this podcast.
Me too. I love
I'm
having
having a
chats
great
with you.
time. I do too. It's fun. Now, if
Never
we could
gets
just
old.
get some sponsors. So, when was it last time? Monster Energy. I
Yeah, it was
asked to
Monster
sponsor
Energy.
us.
Also, still need that because I can't get my ass out of the fucking bed ever. Anyway,
Okay, so side note, I know we're gonna clue up now in a second, but um tomorrow morning I'll be
yes.
back to my morning get up and goes because so we still don't have the basement finished, but the painting and plastering has been complete. And we'll have another contractor here in another couple of weeks. But until then, I'm getting back at it. So I will be back on the old gram in the morning to
Good for you.
prove that I'm awake.
What's
Basically, we need
tomorrow?
the accountability.
Wednesday.
Anybody listening right now is
Oh,
Saturday, but
right.
yeah, tomorrow is Wednesday for us.
For me, it's Wednesday.
Yeah, yeah, for us, tomorrow's Wednesday.
Okay. That's good. Okay, because I believe I have a class booked for tomorrow night
Yeah, yeah.
because I'm not getting up in the morning. I'm not
No,
doing
but
that.
I am.
I'm not there yet.
So I'll do tomorrow morning story and then you can
Hmm.
do tomorrow night story and
Okay, I'll do that.
we'll Instagram it.
Where I go back to my tomato face. Holy
Yeah.
Jesus, man. Did you see
I
that? Anyway.
know. So I clicked on it. So it's funny because I'll go through to see like if you posted a story and I like click
Yeah,
through the
me too.
stories and I like clicked and on the poll or whatever. And then I
Yeah.
realized I was doing it from our account that posted it. And I was like, I just answered my own question. I'm like, why don't I just go through the pictures and like them all? So it can be like two girls, one pod liked their own picture. Like, but I feel like that's Instagram in your 30s. That's just us.
Yeah, that's us trying to catch up with technology at this
Yeah, we're
point.
working on it, folks. We're working on it. Maybe I'll do another TikTok this week. So
Maybe I'll look at it.
you should look at the TikTok is the best. Okay. All right. We should sign off because we're getting carried away and I have to pee
We
because
are.
I drink a lot of tea and a lot of water while we're here. And I've got a small bladder, people.
Right.
I've trained. Okay. One last thing.
Okay.
I read that your
Hmm.
bladder is able to be trained. So similar to the way that like I don't know what example I used. There was a fucking really good example for it, and I can't think of it right now. So I'm not even gonna try because I'm gonna get it wrong. But like, you know how when you're younger, and like we
Hmm.
probably do this to our kid. Well, not so much Scarlett yet, but you've probably done it to your kids. And like my parents said to me, and it's kind of like instilled in me now. Go pee before we leave. So you have to
Yes.
do your pee because we're not gonna stop when we leave. So
Hmm.
that is not healthy because you're telling your body that you need to pee as opposed to
Not
you
listening to its
using
cues.
exactly to food. That's what I was trying to there was an example
Yes.
about like listening to your body's cues and how like we fuck up our own food by like giving it a time limit and stuff.
Hmm.
But apparently you can do the same thing with your bladder. So like I definitely did that because I call it like my nervous pee. So whenever I had to leave, like Drew's like, Melissa, you peed like fucking 5 minutes ago, but I can go pee again right before I leave the door. And there's still stuff in there because
Me too.
I'm trained. And the second I leave, if I know that there's no bathroom, I have to pee. So like we're on this podcast, what, an hour? Maybe we're
Hmm.
chatting. I've had like half a cup of tea and a bit of water and I gotta go. But it's because I've trained myself that like, okay, for the next hour, you can't go to the bathroom because you're here talking to Crystal and whatever and then I don't have to, and then it makes me have two more. Same with before bed. If I go to bed, I'll pee before bed. And then if I get in and I watch TV for an hour, when I turn off the TV, I'm like, oh, I gotta go pee again. When I don't, because I can sleep mostly all night. So we train our bladders to do that. I read
Okay,
it
so then
somewhere, so it's real.
I believe you. I do. I 100% believe you because I do the same thing. Like before I leave, I have to go pee because that's what I was always trained to do, kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
but here's my question that's going to throw a wrench into this whole thing.
I'm
Why
prepared for your
then?
question. Mhm.
Why then, when I go to an ATM, do I have to pee every single time?
Well, that's got nothing to do with trading your bladder. That I'm what I'm saying is that it's bad for us to force ourselves to pee when we don't have to. Okay,
Yeah, but
that your
why do I
ATM
feel
peeing.
triggered?
Why do I have to poo every time I go to Walmart? Legit.
I
There's
That's
something
true.
about the colors at Walmart.
So
I can't go to Walmart without needing to take a dump. There's been times I just
is it
gotta.
like a Pavlov's dog thing or like
I don't know.
like
I
did
don't know,
you
but there's
always have to like poop when you went to
no.
Walmart when you were a kid?
I
Like
used to work at Walmart. I used to work at a Walmart like years
did you
ago.
poop on your break all the time?
Never had to
Mm.
poo. And until I was an adult, I'm gonna say, always had an issue pooing anywhere other than my own house. Like I would never poo in school. I
I
wouldn't poo
still
anywhere.
do.
If we do you, oh, I'm good now. I can drop it
Still.
wherever. Mm-mm. House party, like I'm the one. You walk in after me, yeah, no, it was me. I'm just
No,
kidding.
like
But no, I
no
can
joke.
comfortably go anywhere.
went away for the weekend, never pooped until I got home.
So when I was younger, that was me. I had to like get that out of my head because it would like bind me up.
Yeah, when I was younger, like a month ago, that was
Mm.
me.
We've got a lot of work to do. We've
We
got a
do.
lot of work to do. All right, we're going to start logging your poops and we're going to talk about this on the podcast. I've got my notebook for anybody
Okay.
who's watching us or not listening
Watching
or
it.
whatever, reverse, I don't know, it's fucking late now. I've got this notepad here, and before we started the show I showed it to Crystal because I like took my pen out and like took the cover off and like was ready to go with my notes, and then I looked at her and I was like, I have no idea why I have a notepad because it's blank. I literally did not
Nothing on
write
it.
one single thing on it, and I took it out as if I was like going to read off all these plans I had for our podcast tonight. Anyway, I didn't. Now we're getting silly.
Okay,
We're getting
we are.
silly. All right. Well, let's say our goodbyes and then I will play us off. So thank you everybody for listening to the pod today. We appreciate it.
We do. And don't forget to subscribe to us. And you can listen to us
Subscribe.
pretty much everywhere. So we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, we're on Google Podcasts. Like just check us out. Check our Instagram, 2girls_1pod.
And we'd love to hear back from you guys too. So we've been doing this for a couple episodes. We've heard that it's 40 episodes to until you really find yourself and like get good at it. So we want feedback. Give us good, bad. If you think we're terrible, let us know. I know our sound quality can be on and off depending, but we're working on it. Last week, the last 2 episodes I think we had were all just echoey. So we think we
Yeah.
figured that out. But yeah, any feedback, any questions, if you want to chime in on some stories that we've told and share your own stories, you can let us know. Just let us know ahead of time if you want us to share it on the pod or not. We can share it anonymously or we can give your name, whatever you would like, because we enjoy shout outs and some of our friends enjoy shout outs. Some of our
Yeah.
friends wish that we would stop sharing so much, but hey, that's us. That's who we
Yeah.
are.
And tell us if you have an inner monologue. We need to know these things.
Yes. Yeah. Any questions that we ask about, make sure to write us and let us know how you feel about it. But until next time, we will see everybody on Friday.
Yeah. Bye.
All right. Thanks for joining. Bye.